Okay, in this video, what we want to do is go ahead and set up some JDL for our use. And let's go ahead and use the JHipster Studio. So this is the task app that Dan created using traditional SQL databases. And now what we're going to do is go ahead and take this entity that Dan worked with, and we'll take it over to JDL and set that up in JDL Studio. So let's come over here. I've got JDL cooking right here. And what we want to do is come up here and do entity, and we call that entity, double check, just task. Now we need an ID value, and in Dan's he was using a long ID, which is perfectly fine with a SQL database, but now we're going over to MongoDB and we need an ID property, and that property needs to be a string value. There's also a Mongo ID property value that we can use, but Spring Data MongoDB is going to map it automatically to a string for us. So we're going to go ahead and use that. And then we got a name. That's also a string. Due date and completed. So let's go ahead and do. So now we can see that we have the properties there. So we have the ID, name, due date, and completed. ID, name, due date, and completed. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to delete all this other stuff here. I'm not quite sure what it's unhappy about there. My mistake. We need to start the entities with a capital. Now we're happy, and now we can see that JDL Studio has created the little entity graph here, or the ERD, but we only have the one entity. And what I'm going to do is come over here, and I'm going to copy this. And let's jump over to the command line here, and I'm already in the project. And I am going to go in VI and call this task-jdl.jh. And I'm going to hit I for insert if you're not used to using VI. And clean up this little tab here. So I have entity task. So this is all the JDL that we need. I'm going to hit escape, WQ for write quit. So now that file is there. ls minus ltr. And we can see down there task.jdl is there. So I'm going to clear that. Now I just do JHipster. And we want to do the goal of import dash JDL, do / task.jdl.jh, and I'm pretty sure we need to use the JH file extension. It can be a little finicky on that if I remember right. And we're going to hit enter, and we can see that, what did I do here? Task.jdl, so I'm going to change that to task.jdl. That was my mistake. Now we're going to find the file, and I'm going to say go ahead and overwrite all of them. Now it's going to go out and basically rebuild all the generated code for us, and when it's done, we're going to go over and take a quick look at it. While I was doing that, I'm going to jump over to IntelliJ, and I want to point out here we were using the data annotation out of Project Lombok. It was a great thing. I'm a big fan of Project Lombok. But what you need to be aware of is when we're doing mappings like this, Project Lombok is going to give us a hash code and an equals implementation. So now we can see that JHipster is done from the little message up there in the top right. But that data annotation in Lombok is going to give this. So what I did is this is the task Java class. Java file, the source file, and I opened up and we decompiled the Java bytecode in IntelliJ, and I'm looking at what was actually created by Project Lombok. So we can see that we did implement an equals method and a hash code method as well as a toString. Now let's come over here and take a look at the Task Mongo app, and let's come in here, source, main, Java, domain. And now we can see the task. It hasn't been added. You can see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I am on a branch called JDL. I will check this into GitHub so you can get this file and changes that were made in this module. So now if we come over here to task, we can see that rather than a document, let me actually rearrange this a little bit. And what we can see here is the class that was created before in the regular SQL version of the task application. And we're not using Project Lombok right now. We can see that on line 12, it's annotated with an entity. Now on line 13 of the new task under MongoDB, it's a document. And this is an important contrast between using JPA and MongoDB. We also have on line 17 an ID value, and this is going to be automatically generated for us by MongoDB. Spring Data Mongo is going to be handling the mapping to the Mongo ID property. And we can see that we did give it some names here. Nice little touch by the JHipster folks. So that's all being generated for us. And now I want to go down here. We can also see that we've implemented an equals method, a hash code method, and a toString method. And this is all being generated from the JDL generator for us. So a real nice implementation. I really like what the JHipster guys did here. So now we are all set to run against a Mongo database. I just want to show you some of the mapping that's happening here when we go in and use the JDL entity generator under MongoDB.